Welcome to Sacred Magic. Violet is on a quest to bring sacredness back into our everyday experiences. Anyone can have an extraordinary life when they are able to tap into their sacred magic within. Violet and her guests will be sharing their divine passions, inspirations, and stories of connecting with their sacred magic. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Vialet Rayne.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Vialet Rayne. My guest today is Chris, the Blue Rose Mystic. I met Chris in Lilydale, just as a side note, last year when I went to take a mediumship conference, and I loved his energy and I was so drawn to him. So Chris is an oracle card reader, a Reiki Master, a Reverend. His known abilities are communing with gods and goddesses and other beings, psychometry, recognition, psychic knowing, sensing energy, empathing, clairvoyance, clair-audience, and utilizing the other clairs. He's had psychic abilities since he was very young. He reads using 2 custom oracle decks intuitively. His cards literally fly and lay themselves out. It's very fabulous, according to Chris. His spiritual journey has introduced him to many different areas, which include past life regressions, a Native American healing ceremony, and the list goes on and on and on. So we're going to jump in and talk to Chris. Chris, have you always been connected? What led you down this path? Because I know when I met you, you were working in a candle shop.
Yes. I was working at the fabulous candle shop. So it really goes back to when I started having abilities. It was around age 8, and I was going to bed that night, and my grandparents lived half a block down from us. So everybody was within like 15 minutes. So my parents had just come back from helping them. Everybody would mow all the lawns and stuff. And what I would call it now is I lovingly call it dog with a bone, because my bells are going off and they just keep giving me the message over and over. At that time, I had no clue what the heck it was. And they said, and I kept saying, something's wrong with Pa, something's wrong with Pa. And my parents, basically, it was like, go to bed. So Mama Mia was like, I'm going to go check. I swear she went to check. And then basically I went to bed. I woke up about 10 o'clock at night, and our next door neighbor was out in the main living room. I said, hey, what's up? And I said, is everything okay? She says, yeah, everything's fine. I'm going to be here till your parents get back. Your grandfather collapsed the second that they left. And that's when my mom's like, yep, he's got abilities. So from there, I mean, as I tell everybody, when you start out, regardless of if you already, when you start up, you'll start with a couple of clairs on, and you'll have a couple things. Maybe you'll see, maybe you'll hear, you'll get a couple of things. Once you get good at that, then you end up firing on all cylinders. And then I ended up going to a reading. Ironically, as a reader, going to a reading, who would have thought? I went to a reading, and then I was told I should be a reader, and here we are. And I love helping people, and my call is helping people and brightening people's day in spring, rainbows and sunshine and fabulous and glitter that's holistic glitter that's environmentally friendly everywhere.
I love that. I love that. Now, Chris, I'm going to ask you a question. All your life, have people leaned in and embraced you, or sometimes did you feel like the odd person out? Did you feel like they didn't really connect because you had all these abilities? Because sometimes people that have these abilities, others are a little fearful of them or think that's weird or don't connect. Can you share with us some of your experiences?
So when I was in school and whatnot, I didn't really talk about it. I pretty much was trying to go about my business and everything like that. When did I start talking about all the spiritual fabulousness more mainstream? I ended up going and taking a class from Katie Manning Hilton. She's super fabulous. And I started from there, getting more introduced to everybody in the spiritual community and taking classes and stuff. So I found like-minded people who you could talk with by attending classes and stuff. And then I tell everybody, always, get Facebooks, Instagrams, WhatsApp, whatever it is. Get contact information so you can all stay in touch, and then you can keep talking about it. And then the circle grows. So you just kind of find your people, basically. Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that. And you're so authentic. A lot of people have a hard time stepping into their authenticity. They have a hard time being themselves. They have a hard time showing up. And that's what I love about you is you're so authentic and you show up as your true self and you encourage and lean into other people to be themselves, which is really uncommon in the world today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should all try and be our fabulous selves and bring our unique flair and fabulousness to the world. I think that by being our unique selves and by utilizing our abilities and everything like that to help people, we're raising the vibration and bringing more light and good, happy vibrations to the world. It needs a little bit of a little bit of a makeover, a little bit of paint. It's a little bit too gray and beige right now. We need to just kind of blast it with glitter.
I love that. And I love all your blue. You must love blue because being called the Blue Rose Mystic and all your blue on today, what is your connection with blue?
So blue is my favorite color. And I always, well, blue is my favorite color. So then I'm like, all right, when I came up with the name the Blue Rose Mystic, I'm like, all right, well, what am I going to do here? I asked my team, I'm like, help me with this. And they're like, I think they said like, oh, I forget it because half the time when I get a message, it's in one ear and out the other. Then, psychic HIPAA, as I call it, happens. So a little fuzzy there, guys. Sorry. But basically, I put down my favorite things and I wanted to choose a title because in the spiritual communities and stuff, there's always like psychic, medium, this and that. So I always call myself allspice, but mystic is all encompassing and I like roses. And so I had been really, at the time, I really loved the different rose meanings. Each color of a rose has a different meaning between peach, coral, yellow, blue. So the blue rose, if you look it up, I'm going to have to figure out how to change this politely, or at least put a little add-on, Blue Rose Mystic style or something. If you look up the blue rose, it's the unattainable right now. But to me, it's the blue rose standard, which is to achieve the impossible and to always go towards achieving the impossible.
Well, I love that because even as I teach, there are different meanings for different colors and different flowers and different elements. But the true meaning is what feels right to you. What is your meaning of it? Because I can give you all my meanings, but that's my personal language. That's my personal connection. And I love that you have taken it to be your personal connection to that color, that flower, and what that means to you. So you connect to lots of gods and goddesses. Tell me
Yeah.
about that experience and how you share that with other people.
So, I find that it's always interesting to speak with other readers and say, hey, what are you getting in your readings? Not like, their personal business, but do you see any themes? So for me, I find that one of my purposes is to reintroduce people to the gods and goddesses like Athena, Horus, Poseidon, Hecate. There's pantheons. There's tons of pantheons. You can go Egyptian, Greek, Norse. There's tons all over the world. But what I've found is when I'm doing readings and reconnecting people, it's usually that they may have had a past life and already worked with them in another lifetime, and they want to reconnect and start working with them again and carrying on where they left off. As far as how I got into it, I ended up going to a phenomenal past life regressionist, and I ended up starting to do a couple past life regressions. And I found that I was I was in college, and it was a really wild experience. The first time I had that happen, I thought I was losing my mind, but I wasn't. I fact-checked myself. I went into the past life regressions and I started realizing that I had connections to various beings and I could hear them like I would during like grandma and grandpa or any familial relatives in a reading. And basically, the first experience was I was just wandering around I was in college and I went into a classroom and then it was like, I couldn't tell if I saw it with my regular eye or my third eye at the time. Sometimes you can see without seeing with your eyes. It's kind of like a second layer. It's hard to explain until you do it. But I ended up seeing Poseidon and I was like, am I okay? Do I smell burnt toast? Is everything okay? So, and it was totally fine. And then I had that huge epiphany that if you exist, everybody exists. So then I started reaching out, and then naturally I started talking to everybody, with protection. Put up protection first. For heaven's sakes, put up protection before doing any spiritual work. You want to make sure it's nice and kosher.
Yeah, you do. Here's a belief that I have, so you'll find this interesting. I believe any character, any energy that we have come collectively and built that character. So, like Harry Potter,
Mm-hmm.
like Iron Man, like all of these characters that we have in our lifetimes through movies and personalities, and everybody connects to that character and has an understanding. I believe that character has life beyond the story. That just like you're connecting to Poseidon, you can connect to the energy of Harry Potter. You could connect to the energy of Snow White. You could connect to the energy of all these characters, fiction, nonfiction, all of these people that have had energy, because it becomes living, breathing energy. And you can make those connections even with those beings to come in and help. Does that make sense? So when I tell people that, they're like, really? And I go, it's an archetype. It is a living, breathing energy now, because everybody understands that personality, that character, what's coming through. And it lives and breathes outside of that movie, right? That story, that book.
Oh, yes. Stories and everything are very timeless and whatnot. And I mean, it goes to the understandings of stuff. I mean, I've heard people say the gods, goddesses, and beings are just aliens and stuff. There's many different theories, and it's always very interesting. But consciousness and energy like that, I always love that because, I mean, it does go to archetypal ends of the spectrum. But the other thing that's always really interesting is, I mean, if you think back to ancient times and whatnot, there are gods and goddesses in similar categories all over the world, and they didn't have cell phones or anything. They couldn't just be like, hey, guys, we got a water god or goddess over here. They had no idea. And to see the overlap is amazing too. But they do meet that they do meet those archetypes like you're talking about. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, totally.
See where that comes in, right? So how
Hmm.
can these beings help us in our everyday life? So you talk about connecting people to those beings, those what I call my divine team. I forget what you said
Yep.
earlier about your team, right?
Hmm. Yep.
They're here to support us in different ways. How can people utilize that knowledge, that wisdom, that connection in their daily life? What would Poseidon want to teach us or guide us through?
So, it depends on who you're talking to, though, too, because they're all very fabulously unique and they all have their own areas of coverage. Like Athena is goddess of wisdom, war, and craft. Poseidon is more oceans and he's more about the ocean. Horus is obviously ancient Egypt and he has the Eye of Horus, which is protection and stuff. So you can reach out to them. It's comforting to know. I tell everybody once life after death exists, it takes the edge off because it's like you can relax a little bit because you're
Right.
going to see everybody again and all that stuff. Please don't rush it. But as I say, when I connect everybody with various gods, goddesses, and beings, it usually has a tie-in to what's happening in the reading. As far as what they were working on then, it's usually eerily similar, or it has some sort of correlation to what they're going through now, or it makes sense to them because, oh, I've always been pulled towards that, or I've had a connection or a pull towards that. So how to utilize them? You can ask them for guidance. You can ask them for protection. I usually reach out a lot of the time for protection. They can help me give pointer. They can give me pointers throughout the day. They help me with my readings. So yeah, you can reach out to them for certain things. What I'm doing is not deity work exactly, because I asked them. I was talking to Thoth. He's an Egyptian. He's the ibis god. He has the very fabulous long nose of. He's more. He's the ibis god. And I had said to him, I'm like, well, what's the difference between deity work and what I'm doing? So my team came up with the term communing. So they like the term communing as opposed to that. And I said, is it the same thing? And they're like, no, deity work is its own very specific way of fabulousness. And then this is just, I'm kind of like talking to everybody. And it's like, it's not that it's not formal. I always keep it classy and we're talking and everything, but it's almost like I'm working with them in concert and they're helping me. I'll ask them, I'll say, hey, that's how I channeled my deck. My two decks. I said, hey guys, help me out. I said, I have no clue. So they said, get a legal pad and a pen. And I listened to what they were telling me and I transcribed my decks and all the meanings. So you can ask them for help in guidance in things, and they can also keep you safe and give you warnings as well. Like, you might want to, stay in the house for an extra 2 minutes for some unknown reason. And you just go, yeah, that sounds good.
I love that. So you talked about protection several times. Why do we need protection? What is protection? And how do we have protection?
So this varies from person to person, depends on your belief systems and everything like that. The reason why we need protections is because there are things that will go bump in the night. It doesn't hurt to have a little bit of protection from that stuff. It's good form. If you have a pot of pasta going on the stove, you don't walk away from it and leave it overflowing and boiling. You turn it off. You want to make sure things are taken care of. So if I'm opening a reading, I'm going to invoke protection and I open the session and I'll shut the session. So protections are there so that way you're covered, so that way you know that you're safe during a reading in case there's any shenanigans, as I call it. But protections are important because it'll keep you safe, your client safe, and it's just better to go about it because you never know what people are doing, I mean, I ended up going to a cemetery once. We were just going it was Pokemon Go times. It was during the daytime. Don't go into cemeteries at nighttime, guys. Please don't. And sure enough, I hear a scream and some people come flying by and I could feel an energy rushing up this way at me. And I turned around and go, hold on a moment, please. I said, first of all, please don't. Second of all, I'm sorry, but I imagine that the people who went flying that way were very sorry about whatever they did. So I hope that you can, calm down. So I had an evil eye on my keychain and I turned on that. And of course, my team was right here. So I was covered, just in case there's misunderstandings or something like that. Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that. So let's talk about your deck. Your deck that you created. What does it look like? How do you utilize it?
So the first deck is my blue deck. It has a blue illustration on the back. I ended up, when I first went in, I got the reading that I was supposed to be a reader. I was up in Toronto and I ended up getting a Nostradamus Oracle. I tried some other Oracle card decks. I haven't gotten into tarot. I respect tarot highly. I have tons of friends who read tarot, but Oracle is more intuitive. So I went that route. Mm-hmm. So I finally said to my team, I said, hey, can you just help me out here? And they told me to grab the pen and paper again. And I transcribed it. I said, keep it simple and elegant. I want anyone who can pick well, eventually when we get them, I'm working on getting artwork done. We'll get there eventually. So that anybody could pick up my deck, shuffle it, and read without having to use the book. One-liner meanings that were enough to cover it. So I will literally shuffle my cards. I didn't know card spreads at the time. So I said, all right, help me out with this. So my team's like, don't worry about it. So I put my energy into the cards and I set the intention to make any cards that jump very obvious. So finally they said, don't worry, we got you. And I'm like, all right. So I'm just shuffling and I ask the question and they just start going pew, 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 pew. They start flying out and they literally lay themselves out. I recently said to somebody, I said, it kind of reminds me of like tossing like runes or bones because it's kind of like you're casting out like charms or anything like that. And then it all lays out and then I don't move them. I'll flip them over, obviously. But then they lay themselves out in the spread. I made a second deck after that because, well, they told me I needed a second deck. I'm like, guys, it's good, but I need clarity. So I built the red deck. The red deck is a smaller deck, not as many cards, still enough cards, I promise. And it is used to clarify and add more meaning to the first deck so we can go deeper. And it helps to answer all sorts of questions. Usually readings with me are more preventative. I might get a cautionary message about, hey, you might want to watch the tire on your car, and I asked my team to put timestamps on them. So that message lasts for a week. So that way people aren't stuck looking over their shoulder forever.
I love that. I love that. Someday I'm going to have to get a reading from you, Chris.
Totally.
I'm going to have to do that. I think that would be awesome to be able to do that. And I love to see you grow and expand and really come out of your shell. When I see readers, because I've guided readers for many, many years, they all have their different style. Jumping cards is one. You'll have a reader that waits for cards to jump out, just like Chris is doing. You'll have other readers. I have one reader that holds the deck to her heart and she pulls cards this way. It's very sacred, like her heart tells her which one. You'll have people cut the decks and they do it that way. There's so many different styles with all of our personalities that makes it work. So I love hearing about your style. So one of the topics that you wanted to talk about today that I want to close with is, why are we here? Why are we here?
Yes. It baffles me a bit. We're here and we're all going about our business, paying taxes, running around, going to work, walking the dog, planting the gardens. And I just don't feel like everybody's like, why are we actually here? Like, what's the purpose of all this? It's not, life existed before the structures of like civilization did. So what are we doing here? What's the purpose? If you conscribe to the belief of soul contracts, you write a soul contract before you come down and you have some earmarks that you're supposed to hit before you're done. And then you go up and you can review and stuff. I've heard some people be like, oh, it's their first lifetime here or something like that. And I'm like, okay, that's different. But I think that we're all here to help each other and to help lift each other up in various ways. I think that we're going to teach each other lessons throughout life as well. Sometimes, what was the saying? Sometimes people come for a season. There's a tree analogy in there. It was like some people basically come for a season. I'm horrible with analogies, guys. Forgive me.
So the roots, there's the roots of the tree. There's the leaves of the tree where they blow away after a short period of time.
That.
The roots of the tree, they stay longer and help keep you grounded. But there's also a comedian that talks about sometimes people come into your life for just a season and you hang on to them for a lifetime. And that was not what they were meant to do. And then it gets really kind of messy and uncomfortable because they were around for a long time. How often have you had somebody come in for a very short period of time that lifted you, inspired you, helped you, whatever, and then they move on to the next? Those are our leaves. They come in and inspire us and move on. It's not a bad thing. It's just part of this reality and experience. So I love that. I love that. And so
absolutely.
these people come in to help. Like Chris, I hope he's around with me for a lifetime because I love Chris. We're going to get to see each other again.
Yeah.
I just don't know how and when, but it's going to happen because I really enjoyed his energy and his pep and his happiness and all of that. I think you inspire people and you bring lots of joy in their life. And I'm sure the reality is true. He's human. People look at us as spiritual leaders and they're like, oh, they don't have challenges. They don't have opportunities. Let me enlighten you. We cry just like you do. We bleed just like you do. We get sick just like you do. Just because you're on a spiritual path doesn't mean you get to skip all of that, because that's really why we came here, is to have all those experiences. So, Chris, what do you do when you have a blue day or a salty day or a down day? How do you pick yourself up to be that high energy, vibrant self you are?
So there's a few things that'll happen. So if you're having a little bit of an off day, a good cup of tea is never a bad place to start. But no, there are days where it's just so sometimes people will be affected by like the collective energy, like the overarching energy with all like the planets and everything. There's tons of astrologer peeps who talk about everything. They're all wonderful. And the thing is, it's interesting. So picking me up, how I pick myself up is if I'm energetically like wiped out and I've done like 400 bajillion readings, I will sometimes call a friend of mine who does energy healing. I'll go for an energy healing session. I'll sometimes go and connect with nature. One of my favorite things to do is to go when it's a little bit warmer. We have quite a few places that are plant stores out here when it's early in the season. I love going and just being amongst the plants and vibing. That's one of my happy places. Especially with marigolds. Marigolds are lovely. And sometimes you need to just go out and hang out with friends, go on a random spontaneous adventure, and just random trip. I mean, I just randomly went to Salem, which was totally fabulous, and we had a great time. And sometimes it's that spontaneity. Another time, if I need to recharge and like properly recharge and just check out for 5 minutes, I'm gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna put everything down. I'm gonna wait for a weekend and I'm going to the ocean and phones off, and I'm just gonna stare at the waves and also get shells because I mean, who doesn't love good shells?
Right? They're amazing. Have you been to Sanibel yet and collected shells? You need to go there.
Oh, I've got to go there. I haven't been there yet. I'll have to write that one down.
Yeah, Sanibel, the beach is this thick in shells.
Holy Corolla.
It's where all the shells come in from the current. So there are different times a year where there are more shells there, but that's where a lot of the shells come in. So that's in Florida on the Gulf side. So you should check that out and go to Sanibel. So
Hmm.
I met Chris at Lilydale. Lilydale is a spiritualist camp in Buffalo, New York, or close to Buffalo, New York. It's been there
Hmm.
since the 1800s. And the one experience that I love to hear Chris talk about was they have a fairy area there where there are fairies. And so share with us, because the fairies love Chris. And so share with us some of your experiences you've had there when you go to connect with the fairies.
Okay. So the first time I went to Lilydale, I heard about the fairies and oh my gosh, the fairies and stuff. And I believe, after my first past life regression, like world opened up and there was like it's like extra lights came on. What happens in your spiritual journey and stuff is you'll hit certain points and it's just like a whole nother floodgate opens because your team's like, yeah, level up. You're ready for the next thing. So I get to Lilydale, which is always a lovely time. And I heard about the fairies. I didn't know if fairies existed, but I'm like, what the heck? We're gonna go and see. So I politely told everybody, hey, I'm gonna go out alone into the fairy trail. If I'm gone for like 6 hours, send somebody. So I went out there and I just went alone and I just politely said, hey, I'm coming in. There are these two stumps right on the path right before the fairy trail. So anytime I go there, maybe this is too formal, who knows? I'm very formal. What can I say? Keep decorum, as I say. I said, hey, I'm coming to say hello. It's a pleasure to meet you. I come in peace and all that. I'm going up the trail. So I said, I heard there's fairies on the trail. So I'm just here to say hi. And yeah, so I just kind of was quiet and I just kind of vibed out. And I just kind of tuned in. The wind started blowing and stuff, very, very peacefully. And it was good because I was alone. It helps you really hone in it when you're in quiet, especially. I can now function on 18 cylinders no matter what's going around me. But I'll never forget this butterfly that showed up. I called it Mach 10 butterfly. I heard a whoosh go past my ear. It sounded like a sparrow, like a full-blown bird had gone by my ear. And it was this absolutely delightful butterfly. It's actually on my Facebook page. I took a freaking video of it. So you can go check it out. That's on my personal page. I might have to post that. You know what? I'll post it. I'll post it somewhere. And it was doing figure eights. It's flying around. And I'm like, is this the Fae? And then it like parks. It parks on a leaf. And I'm like, oh boy. And I heard laughing behind me. So I spun and I saw something go through the ferns. And I'm like, holy Corolla. I'm like, all right. And I'm like, definitely something going on here. So it was all playful, delightful energy and stuff. So year one, didn't know that I was supposed to bring something. I felt absolutely, it's like when you go to a party and you were supposed to bring something, you're like, oh my God, I need to like run to the market and get something. So I ran to the bargain shop, which is delightful, and basically bought a lot of things. And I'm like, here you go, because they will collect everything and put it away for the winter and put it back out on the trail. I mean, I've seen, and then nighttime is when you can really go ahead and see some fairies and stuff, even down by the stump. They kind of look like they're like, think Tinkerbell. Okay, let's go with that. Tinkerbell. It's the colors are not like fireflies. You're talking yellow, red, blue, pink, purple. Nothing you would ever see in nature, and they're just going blink, 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 and the flight pattern kind of is like a flashing, like swooping thing. It's very cool. And then, I mean, I heard that heavens knows there's gnomes. And then there are also, I heard that somebody had said that there was somebody messing around on the trail one night and some of the Fae or there was some sort of goblins or something. I don't know. Somebody ran somebody off who was causing shenanigans, but it was politely like, please leave, don't do that. So it's delightful. They do like sugar and chocolate. Please, snowcaps are their friends.
So it was funny because I went to Walmart there and bought like cupcake candy sprinkles and snow caps and different things, and went through, and we just all the way through the fairy trails left all kinds of candy. And my friend that was there had a whole handful, and something knocked her hand and they took every bit of it. She's like, okay, they wanted all of it, so
Oh
it's
my
all
God,
gone now.
yeah.
They're like, don't leave with that. That's ours.
Oh God, yeah. Well, this year I heard there were reports. Everybody's like, don't go on the fairy trail at nighttime. There's a bear. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, of all the time. So obviously you shouldn't be running around at nighttime without flashlights or anything anyway. Be responsible. But we were just, you can walk around at nighttime, be very quiet and respectful of everybody, please. But me and my friend, we ended up sitting, there's a bench right on the outskirts of it. And we were just walking around and we were just kind of vibing. And all of a sudden, and I have snow caps. I have a little carry-on with me. I have a carry-on. If you go to Lilydale, have a cute little carry-on thing, one of the reusable bags or a cute tote, much easier to carry everything in. In my tote, I had snow caps, and I start hearing and sensing movement behind me. Now, my back is completely to the fairy trail this way. And I said, okay, they're trying to quietly come up and take the chocolate. So I said, all right. So I look back and and there's nothing there. Second time I look back and then the leaves went flat. They were standing up straight like this on their stems, went thump. And I'm like, aha, there you are. So I said, would you like some chocolate? And there was rustling and I'm like, okay. I said, I don't want to clock anybody. So I gently dispersed it in a safe way that would be towards like a log. And then there was munching that could be heard. It was very interesting. So I love the fairies. It's quite wild. I think that you could probably reach out to them anywhere, do so responsibly. But Lilydale is a great place to go and meet them, definitely, especially at nighttime. But they won't come out during the rain, though. Don't bother if it's raining.
They don't like rain. Well, you can create a fairy garden in your backyard. You can create a fairy garden in your house. You can leave treats out for them in either place. They love that. They love to be hidden under the greenery, though. They don't like to be like open in a space. If you see a mushroom ring, that's a fairy ring. You never step in. You hold sacred space, but you always bring treats. Every one of the elementals love little gifts when you honor them. So even I, who just got back from a cruise yesterday, anytime I go to the ocean, I take crystals as gifts. And I usually build an altar on the beach so that the waves can take it away. But there were so many people that I didn't want to create a ruckus. So I ended up standing out on my balcony on the boat saying, I love you, Mother Ocean. Here's crystals and here's herbs and here's love. Because we take shells from her, but what do we give her back? I think the last trip I went to Bahamas, I left like an angel crystal that I threw out to her into the water and said, here's my gift to you. So I always like to leave them gifts and honor them because they're supporting us in so many ways. And I don't think they get honored that much. We throw trash and we are destructive instead of really honoring this is their home, their space. If you take a leaf, if you take a limb from nature, you're taking that from somebody's home. So some beings home, you have to think about that. You always ask permission. And you always leave something behind for them that they would like as a thank you. So just a little bit of our elementals. Chris, this has been so much fun. Talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you do and you offer. I know people can connect to your Facebook page and find out what's going on with you. But just today in your environment coming up in the next few months, what kind of things do you have going on?
So next few months, here's my month in advance. So currently it is January, I think it's 27th, right? Yes, January 27th of 2025. This weekend, February 1st and February 2nd, I'm going to be a reader at the Winter Witches Festival. It's at the Western Turnpike Golf Course in Albany, New York. So if you're around, it's first time it's going to be 2 days. We'll be doing, I'm going to be there with tons of other fabulous readers. There's going to be over 30 vendors. I mean, there's going to be 10 classes, 5 per day. I'm going to be teaching on Saturday. I'm going to be doing Psychic Development 101 Blue Rose style. Why Blue Rose style? Because if you're taking a class or doing anything with me, if you expect the normal, you might want to throw that out the window. It's going to be fabulous. It's going to be different, and it's going to be amazing. So I'm going to be teaching that class. It's going to be the 101 class is always, I teach a longer 101 class personally outside of fairs and stuff. That one is much more of, even the one at the fair will be a foundational class. I think that everybody, if you're interested in starting your spiritual journey, a good Psychic Development 101 class or a 101 class on just the fundamentals is a really good place to start. I started with a 101 class. It was just a quick 2-day one. Got a whole foundation. You want to have a nice little foundation of like the basics and stuff. On the first at the Winter Witches Festival, I also read as a part of the Three Fates. That is me, Corby Mitleid, and Tiffany Marie Butler. We have the Three Fates Facebook page as well. You'll be able to find that linked on my Blue Rose Mystic, the Blue Rose Mystic Facebook page. We do online Zoom readings and in-person readings. So why is it called the Three Fates? Corby reads for the past, past lives, phobias, fears, anything you're drawn to from the past. Tiffany Marie Butler, she will read for the present, what's happening now, and then I'm in charge of the future, what's coming up, and questions about the future. It's always very interesting to see what comes through with everything. And we go usually for about 2 hours, and we try and get through as many people as we can, and we offer them on Zoom too, so that everybody, no matter where you are in the world, or even, if people are watching us like 3 years in the future, hopefully we're still going with that. I imagine we will be. Everybody can attend because we all want to stay connected. We want to build community here. So I'm going to be teaching 2 classes a month. I'm going to try and get a gallery reading up once a month. So I'm regularly teaching classes. I just taught a how to make your own Florida water class and a Psychic Development 101 Blue Rose style class. Both were very fabulous. If you don't know what Florida water is, you can get store-bought Florida water, which is totally fabulous. But I teach an intuitive process that I was given by my team. Literally, so how do you work with your team? They told me, hey, I want you to teach this class. Okay, cool. That's great. I'm going to teach the class. I'm really just kind of listening to them and helping facilitate what they would like to do, obviously within reason. Florida water can be used to clear your space, clear yourself. It's very good for protection and cleansing and whatnot. And then, I had the classes were fabulous, and I look forward to helping everybody on their spiritual journeys more. So that's where I'm looking at for at least 1 month out. I'm going month by month right now, but there's tons of good stuff coming up. Absolutely.
I love that, Chris. I think that's really amazing. And as his journey expands and as he starts adding more and more stuff, we'll have him back on the show. I love that he offers things that people can connect to no matter where you live, where you're at. So you can definitely do some virtual things from him. So definitely connect there. Chris, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you all for listening to this fabulous and epic podcast with Vialet.
I love that. When your deck gets complete, you need to come back on the show and share it with us. Show us what it looks like. Maybe do a reading or something on the show.
Oh, absolutely. I would absolutely love that too. And it's going to sound so ridiculous, but I cannot wait to see what happens when other people read using my deck. I have 2 copies currently. I have my first ones that I made that are the original copies, and then I have an updated version. So I have had a few people who my team said, hey, have them throw cards with it. I've seen a few instances of it, but it's interesting to see how other people read, because it's almost like, do you want to teach a class on it, or do you just want to like facilitate a class and let everybody just kind of flow in their own way? Because Oracle, you should just flow. But yes, that sounds wonderful.
I love that. I love that. Have fun this weekend in your classes, in your event. I hope you're super successful. I know you will be as you grow and expand and get more and more known out there in New York. Everybody's going to know who you are. So I love that. And I just love our connection, and we stay in touch. Chris is amazing at staying connected with people that he's met. That is the one thing that he is very good at, is keeping everybody connected. So I love that about you. So kudos to you on that.
Well, thank you. And yes, we can all talk, connect, and then we can all raise the vibrations of the fabulous earth and everywhere else outside of the earth together.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for those that have watched today. I hope you like and comment on your favorite channels, and I hope we'll see you back here again soon. Thanks for taking the time today to listen or to watch. I hope you have a very sacred and magical week.
Thank you for joining us. To find out more about Vialet, head over to discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. You can also send a personal message to Vialet through email, violet@discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. If you love the show, subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. Until next time, remember, we are meant to have abundant and joyful lives. We hope to see you soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.